The following program is brought to you by TZ Productions, celebrating KPTS's nearly 50 years of community support in South Central Kansas. Great starts here on KPTS.
Brought to you by Central Security Group, your experts in home automation, security, and peace of mind. View video on your smartphone and control your home's lights, locks, heating, cooling, and more. Security app compatible with Apple Watch and Amazon Echo.
Program support provided by the F. Price Kosman Memorial Trust, Entrust Bank trustee, bringing you the Kansas Wild Edge segments on Positively Kansas.
It's time for Positively Kansas. Coming up.
I miss the state. I miss being around it. I miss being around our friends. I love the work. The work is just really hearty and meaningful.
From U.S. Senator to Kansas Governor and now U.S. Ambassador, Sam Brandback tells Jim Grayway about his new job promoting religious freedom around the world and why it's always nice to come home. Also,
these are just good evidence of how time marches on. I mean, there's been a lot of changes from where humans have been here. And there'll be more changes afterward, too. So,
a Kansas couple unearths some amazing discoveries on the wide open prairie. Correspondent Bryan Ramsdale gives us a first-hand look at this incredible archeological site that's attracting attention from around the world. Plus,
you'll see communities of this size that are really languishing, and Lindsborg is not. We're very unique. We're very different.
And part of that uniqueness is right here. Do you know about the Dala Horses that adorn the town of Lindsborg? You're about to hear the fascinating story. And
he missed the Guinness's World Record by 1/4 of an inch. So he's the second tallest cat in the world.
All sorts of interesting felines were prowling about at a unique event in Wichita. We'll get an up-close and personal look at some of these fancy felines. I'm Sierra Scott. Those are just some of the stories that are queued up and ready to roll. Positively Kansas starts right now. He's one of the most recognized faces across Kansas, but these days Sam Brandback is traveling the globe. He's now a U.S. ambassador on a unique mission to promote freedom and tolerance for people of faith and to encourage understanding and peace. Mr. Brandback recently came home to Topeka for a weekend of R&R, and Jim Grayway caught up with him there.
From hotspots around the world, including Ukraine, Nigeria, Turkey, to Washington, D.C., and back home in Kansas.
I miss the state. I miss being around it. I miss being around our friends. I love the work.
Former Governor Sam Brandback's on a never-ending mission, fueled by this undeniable reality.
While the West operates off of reason most of the time, most of the world operates and sets their coordinates by their faith. And if you don't understand faith and work with people in their faith setting and within their faith beliefs, you're not going to get anywhere.
He is the U.S. Ambassador at Large for Religious Freedom, appointed by President Trump to help resolve conflict between people of different faiths around the world. And the number of cases is virtually endless.
We can get quite a few people out of jail, and hopefully we keep more people alive too. It's a deadly business to be a minority faith often in many nations.
But it's not just other nations. When he was governor, Brandback had to deal with religious terror right here in Kansas. One case was a failed suicide bombing attempt at Wichita's Mid-Continent Airport. The terrorist was a self-radicalized Islamist. In another case, Muslims were the targets of a bomb plot in Garden City. The ambassador says no place is immune to religious intolerance, and no one is excused from being held accountable for it.
People of whatever faith have the right to practice their faith, because we believe that the United States does, that Your right to choose whatever faith or no faith at all is your right, your God-given right, and no government has a right to interfere with that.
In Topeka, I'm Jim Grayway for Positively Kansas.
Ambassador Brownback's office is in the U.S. State Department, which you surely know is headed up by another Kansan, Mike Pompeo from Wichita. We all know Kansas has a rich history, but few realize how far back it goes. Forget the 1800s and start thinking 80 million years ago. Not so deep in the soil rest the fossilized remains of ancient creatures that, if alive today, would make the Hollywood movies look tame. Journalist Bryan Ramsdale takes us to western Kansas, where discoveries of these once ferocious animals are being made every single day.
High above the prairies of western Kansas, it looks peaceful. Just outside of Scott City, the iconic Monument rocks standing tall in the setting sun. But just below the soil lies something sinister.
See all the teeth there?
Over 80 million years ago, scientists say these fields were underwater. A sea swarming with prehistoric aquatic creatures that had large teeth and a larger appetite.
Because everything out here had teeth. So, it was a feeding frenzy.
Today, all that's left are their fossils, and in this rural part of the state, the people who hunt for them. Barbara Shelton and her husband Chuck Bonner own the Keystone Gallery. This once abandoned turn-of-the-century church is now filled with art and fossils the couple have found.
It would be really nasty to run across one of those.
Chuck has been collecting fossils in Kansas ever since he was little. Searching for the 80-million-year-old remains became something of a family pastime.
For us to go on a picnic was to go fossil hunting.
It was basically embedded in Chuck's DNA to hunt for fossils. Barbara, not so much. The pair met in college.
I'm a political science major with a minor in economics, far flung from paleontology.
But really, I think I kind of got her involved in it. And she's been a really good, she's found some really nice fossils.
After a few outings looking for fossils, Barbara was hooked. Now they work together, running the gallery and discovering fossils, like this large mosasaur hanging on the wall.
Now, it's hard to take a picture of this because it's so long.
What I find so amazing is every fossil in this gallery wasn't only found here in northwest Kansas, but it was found within 30 miles of where this shop is located.
Normally I'll take a toothbrush and I'll just kind of go like that and clean it up.
Time moves slowly at the gallery.
You know what? I don't really punch into a time clock.
Each fossil on display like a piece of art, waiting 80 million years for its big reveal.
So we take our time, and that's part of the fossil deal, is taking your time.
That's a question that gets asked quite a bit, how long things take. But let's put it this way, it didn't take a million years.
Chuck and Barbara have found thousands of fossils. Their discoveries are in museums across the country and have led them to be featured on a national TV show.
Hey, Chuck. Long time no see. Good seeing you. Yeah, hey, Barbara. I
always wanted to keep hunting and collecting because the thrill of discovery, kind of stays with you once you start finding things.
There's Spiker.
The pair do have some eclectic taste. They use a 1949 Suburban called Spiker to go hunting for fossils.
It was my dad's fossil wagon.
And their gallery is entirely powered by solar energy. In fact, they live off the grid. No power lines, no utility bills, and turns out, no stopping them either.
That point doesn't even exist when we're going to stop collecting fossils. We'll always be doing it until we can't do it anymore.
I don't really ever get bored in the fossil beds. I mean, to me, that's kind of like going home,
The hills in western Kansas are changing. As time goes on, the ground continues to erode away. Still, there will be discoveries to be found, and talented people like Chuck Bonner and Barbara Shelton to preserve them.
But if you get close, you can see some shark's teeth. See the shark's teeth here?
These are just good evidence of how time marches on. I mean, there's been a lot of changes from where humans have been here. And there'll be more changes afterward, too, so.
For Positively Kansas, I'm Bryan Ramsdale.
What an interesting story. It's so great to have Bryan join our team. Well, in addition to hunting for fossils, Chuck is also an artist. His paintings are a biological smorgasbord of animals, past and present. His artwork has been featured in various exhibits and galleries across the state. Now let's catch up with some Kansans and their pets. They gathered for the 10th annual Kansas Cats Cat Show. It took place at the Cessna Activity Center in Wichita. The show attracted felines and their owners from across the Midwest to compete to see who has the most perfect felines.
It's a chance to get for the exhibitors to connect with friends. It's a great chance to learn about new breeds. It's a great chance to teach the public about cat care and cat safety and pet care. It's just a lot of fun.
There were 12 rings where various exotic breeds, along with regular old house cats, were judged for their beauty and poise.
He won awards 3 different years. He was a regional winner 1 year, international winner the next year, and a regional winner again last year is how he got his Lifetime Achievement Award.
Meanwhile, the felines also got a chance to stretch their legs and burn off some energy.
The cat agility is something that's particularly fun for the cats because they get a chance to run and play, and that's part of their nature. So much of a cat show is judging them on their beauty and the way they conform to a breed standard. But for agility, they just get to be cats, and they can run and jump and kind of burn off some steam while they're in the show hall.
The Kansas Cats Club's mission is to promote the welfare and humane treatment of cats. If you missed this year's show, there'll be another one next year if you're interested. While many Kansas towns are struggling with population loss and shuttered homes, a small town in the north central part of the state has found its niche. The town is using an old Swedish keepsake and is now one of the most popular tourist destinations in the state. Bryan Ramsdale takes us to Lindsborg and shows us how the Swedish Dala horse helped save the town.
Scattered along Main Street, Lindsborg, there's a sight you can't miss. Horse after horse, each one painted with pride and out on display. These are called Dala horses, and they're what the town is known for.
It's really just a cultural item that's carried on through time.
Holly Lofton, director of Lindsborg's Convention and Visitors Bureau, dressed in traditional Swedish costume, sees these Dala horses as much more than a way to get tourists to visit the city, but a celebration of the town's Swedish heritage.
To the community, it was important to remember our Swedish roots as we began to evolve and more people began to move into our community that didn't have Swedish roots. We wanted to still remember that.
The Dala horse holds an important place in Swedish culture. While crafted as a toy centuries ago, they quickly became a tool of bartering and a pastime for Swedish men to craft in their downtime while they were away fighting wars.
The town of Lindsborg has been established for almost 150 years, but it wasn't until the 1960s that this all-American town in the center of the United States started to embrace their Swedish roots.
And in the heart of the city lies the Hemslöjd. The Swedish-themed store has become known worldwide for their work.
Here we handcraft the Dala horse sign.
Corey Peterson owns the Hemslöjd. The store's name might sound strange in English, but in its native language, it makes perfect sense.
Hemslöjd, loosely translated, means homecraft or handicraft in Swedish.
At one point in time, the store was the largest seller in the United States of these handcrafted Dala horses.
This is the beginning of a Dala horse.
Starting with a simple block of wood, craftsmen quickly turn it into a piece of art.
A lot of noise and a lot of dust, but we make it work.
After about an hour of sawing and refining, the Dala horse is ready for some paint. Shirley Malm has been painting Dala horses for over 60 years. With her technique, she can get a horse painted in under 15 minutes.
I'm 80 years old. I could have retired a long time ago, and I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't love doing it.
Love is a word most in Lindsborg associate with the Dala horse. While their concept is centuries old, the Dala horse is still important.
Every city, every entity would love to have that recognizable brand, and the Dala horse is our brand.
You can't find Swedish folk art anywhere else, probably, to my knowledge, in the United States.
You can find them on the small town's water tower, street signs, and almost everywhere else. And it turns out their presence became more than just art.
You'll see communities of this size that are really languishing, and Lindsborg is not. We're very unique, we're very different. And I truly believe it's because of the pride we've had in this heritage and the way that we continue to embrace it and the way that we continue to build upon it.
One little painted horse is part of the reason Lindsborg hasn't suffered the same fate so many other small Kansas towns have and faded away. The Dala horse. It might be centuries old, but still has a lot of life to give. I'm Bryan Ramsdale for Positively Kansas.
Next year, Lindsborg residents will commemorate the town's 150th anniversary. There'll be lots of big events, and expect the Dala horse to figure prominently in those celebrations. From horses to buffalo and elk, in this week's Kansas Wild Edge Report, Mike Blair takes us to the best place in the state to see these formidable beasts in their original habitat.
Pristine prairie. It's a rare thing to see anymore since progress took most of America's grasslands. But remnants exist. Scan a clean grassy skyline and you can see the natural world from 100 years ago. One such place is Maxwell Wildlife Refuge near Canton, Kansas. Here in McPherson County, 4.5 square miles lie just as they've always been. Grasses and wildflowers wave in the wind, a spectacle of color complementing the ever-changing sky overhead. And the wildlife you see here is a testimony to the vibrant, healthy grassland ecosystem once common long ago. Some clues are obvious as you drive Maxwell's roads. Once native big game, buffalo and elk, roam the prairie untagged, allowing photographs without reminders of our modern era. Perceptive visitors also find clues in the smaller fauna that depend on healthy prairies. Maybe most notable among these are the beautiful regal fritillary butterflies found only in places that now make up less than 5% of former sprawling grasslands across the nation. On a June day at Maxwell, hundreds of these butterflies can be found on common and butterfly milkweeds, with host prairie violets on which they complete their development safely tucked away in the tall grasses. Some visitors, wishing to see them before they are gone, drive half a continent for the sure experience. Many similar rewards are waiting at Maxwell. See for yourself the pristine prairie and the way it always will be in protected places like Kansas Maxwell Wildlife Refuge. It's a reminder of our precious heartland natural resources, unknown and underappreciated by so many. I'm Mike Blair for Positively Kansas.
For years, we've heard the benefits of eating a low-salt diet, and it has many, many benefits, but our author here has some kind of specific ones and has written a book about this. This is pediatrician Jennifer Brannon. We're so glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm kind of sorry that you had to learn what you had to learn, but we'll explain how that came to be. So first of all, what kind of led you to researching the benefits of a low-salt diet?
Well, in 2015, I was diagnosed with Meniere's disease, which is a problem of the inner ear that causes hearing loss and ringing in the ears and vertigo that just kind of hits out of nowhere. And as one of the recommendations I was given by my ENT, I was told to eat a lower salt diet, less than 1,500 milligrams a day. And I thought,
for Americans, that's really low.
Yes. And I thought, this is no problem. I don't salt my food. I don't cook with a lot of salt.
Yeah.
I'll be good. And then I realized, the more I read labels and the more I researched, how little I truly knew about eating a low-salt diet.
It's really tough. It's tougher than you think, because like you were saying, a lot of times you may not add salt, but almost everything, if you look at the label, has a lot of salt in it.
Yes, it does.
So what are the benefits that you saw from doing this?
Well, personally, this has helped to keep my vertigo more under control. And when I eat a higher salt meal, it causes my ears to feel more full, and I have a lot louder ringing in my ears. And so for my specific condition, those are the benefits I've seen to lowering my salt intake.
Now, in your book, you probably discussed some of the other benefits too. What are some of the benefits for people maybe who, because I'm the worst at it. I will tell you right now, I probably eat more salt than 5 people ought to eat. What are some other benefits that people might see from that?
Well, there are all kinds of people who are told to eat a lower salt diet. So people with heart disease, kidney disease, high blood pressure, all of those things can benefit from a lower salt diet. And so people will see that their blood pressure will tend to be a little bit lower. They won't retain as much water. They won't have as much swelling if they eat a lower salt diet, and they'll just feel better in general.
What are some tips that you give people? Because like we were saying, it's really hard, even if you think I'm not salting anything, it's really hard to eat a low salt diet. What are some tips that you give people to do that?
It is. Well, one of the big things is to try to eat the least amount of packaged food that you can. So the more fresh foods or unboxed foods that you can eat is the best. Eating out less is also a great way. It's hard in our society right now to eat out less, but the least you can eat out, the less salt you'll get.
Yeah, because the thing is, when you go to a restaurant, a lot of people don't realize this, you don't have control and you don't necessarily know how much a chef might be salting something. Just because you don't taste the salt doesn't mean it's not there.
Yes, that's true.
What are some other things that you discuss in the book that people might be interested in?
Well, 2 of the main things that when I was researching this, I tried to find resources for my own self to look and figure out where can I buy things that are low salt if I want to buy a bag of chips that has lower salt, or what can I eat if I go out to eat at a restaurant. And those are the things that I could not find any resources for. I found lots of low salt cookbooks out on the market, but I couldn't really find anything that would tell me if I go to this specific restaurant, what can I get that's less than 500 milligrams of salt. And short of going to each website and looking each time you go out, that's pretty much what you're left with. So what I did was I did a little bit of research, and I put there's a whole section on like local stores where you, and even a lot of them are national chains, but where you can find cans of low salt beans or chips or some of those easy foods that we use in our cooking or in our homes every day that typically would be higher sodium, but there are low sodium options for them. So that's in the book. And then also restaurants. There's a whole chapter that has a lot of the national chain restaurants listed and what you can get. And so I use it as a cheat sheet. I keep it in my glove box in my car, or I even have the Kindle version on my phone. And so if I go out to eat, I pull out my phone and I look up and I think, okay, what can I get that's less than 500 milligrams at this restaurant? And it's super fast, and I don't have to sit and sift through all of the nutrition information.
That's really handy, because one of the things too that people don't realize, even if you go to a steak place, a lot of ways that chefs add flavor to steaks it's just salt them heavily.
Yes.
So great tips. I love this. Where can we find the book?
It's available on Amazon, and you can get it in paperback or ebook version.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, that's a wrap for this week, but our team of top-notch journalists is busy working on more stories for next time. We have some really good ones in the works, so until next time, I'm Sierra Scott. Thanks for watching.
Program support provided by the F. Price Kosman Memorial Trust, Entrust Bank trustee, bringing you the Kansas Wild Edge segments on Positively Kansas.
Brought to you by Central Security Group, your experts in home automation, security, and peace of mind. View video on your smartphone and control your home's lights, locks, heating, cooling, and more. Security app compatible with Apple Watch and Amazon Echo.
The preceding program was brought to you by TZ Productions, supporting KPTS and the communities it serves in South Central Kansas. Great starts here on KPTS.
Support also comes from viewers like you. Thank you. For a free copy of this program, become a new member of KPTS for a $40 contribution. If you are already a member, just send $25 for shipping and handling. Be sure to include the program's name, date, and time.